Good evening, everyone. I have read your practicum logs and your technology papers and have provided feedback to you in the rubrics that are associated with these assignments. Typhon, you're going to find all the feedback in Typhon with the log that you've submitted. So be sure that you go into Typhon and look at the feedback that's been provided and make plans to make adjustments for your final log for log 3. If you have any time log issues, if something is missing from a column or you've accidentally put something in a column, it doesn't go in a column, know that your time log has to be completely corrected prior to me posting your final grade. So be intentional now before it gets to the end of the course of fixing any concerns you may have with your time log. We want to make sure that your hours that you're working hard for are properly documented. When you get to 620, all of those hours have to, in the duration column, have to equal 200 or more hours. So you want to be very thoughtful and make sure that the hours that you're working for are documented where they're supposed to be. The other thing related to your practicum logs that I do want to mention to you is that your supportive narrative section, that center section, is really the nuts and bolts of how you've spent your time. I want to remind you that depending on how long you spent in your practicum session will vary how long that section is. If you were in your practicum environment for 2 hours, that supportive narrative section is probably going to be pretty short. Maybe a paragraph or two of, this is the reason I was there and this is what I accomplished and this is what I think about this. And then you'll include the experiences that I've had as a student helped me be successful during this practicum experience by using prior knowledge or prior learning. All that goes in that section. But again, you're talking about maybe 1 to 2 really good paragraphs if you were only there an hour or 2. But if you're spending 8, 9, 10 hours in your practicum setting, you're spending whole days in your practicum setting, that supportive narrative section needs to be reflective of spending a whole day in your practicum section. So know that one of the first things that your instructor is going to do is start it at the very top of your log, and they're going to look, how long was this person in the practicum setting? What goals and objectives do they feel like they've addressed while in the practicum setting for whatever that time frame is? And then they're going to look at the meat and potatoes or the nuts and bolts or whatever analogy you want to use of the logistics of how you spent your time. And that all needs to be congruent. If you said you worked on a goal that was related to facilitating instruction, then that needs to be evident in the body of your supportive narrative section. And we talked, I think last week or maybe it was week 4, about the importance of the application section to do your analysis of how your work that you completed in the practicum setting align and are supported by the NLN core competencies. And you're going to explore exactly what you did and how it relates to the NLN core competency. You need to do more than this is the competency and this is the activity I did. You need to explore how that activity is actually related and supportive of that core competency that your goals and objectives say you're addressing. It's a big loop. You want to make sure that everything is connected. So just be thoughtful. One of the variations I think people struggle with is they feel like the supportive narrative section has to be this really long, complex section, and that's only true if you're there for an extended period of time. So just make sure that it's appropriate for the duration that you're there. I really enjoy reading the technology papers. It's probably one of my favorite things to grade, primarily because I get some great ideas from you guys. You all are all over the new technology. I was so pleased that so many of you chose to tackle a technology that you weren't familiar with. That really was the goal of this assignment when I designed it a couple years ago, was really being intentional about nudging you out of your comfort zone and having you look at things that you hadn't tried in the classroom, or maybe you thought, now might be a good time to test the waters with this. So my hope is that this was an exercise that heightened your awareness of what's out there, but also your own aptitude, your own skill set, your own learning curves for tackling some of those technologies. I have grown the list of technologies that go along with this assignment over probably the past year and a half or so. When students come up with things I haven't seen before, I love to put them on there just because it's great to know things are out there. The only thing new that I didn't know this time was I've used Quizlet before, and several of you covered that as one of your technologies. I did not know that Quizlet could do concept maps. It's not something I do very often. It's normally something I throw together pretty quickly for a class, but was surprised to know that. So that was a pretty cool fact. The the wrap up of how important it is that we are innovators is really tied to our core competency, but there's also a biblical foundation for always looking to grow, always looking to challenge yourself. One of your classmates did a really nice job wrapping up that concept. Ronald wrote this in his paper. He wrote, "It is up to the teacher to inform themselves, stay current with technology that may support their efforts, and enhance their utilization skills as we move forward into the future of professional education. Failure to do so will only serve to diminish our efforts, reduce our effectiveness, and disadvantage our student population." Peter chapter 4 verse 10 instructs us, "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace." As educators, it is imperative not only to use our knowledge and skills, our gifts, for the benefit of our students, it is just as important that we hone our gifts through study and advanced learning, not grow stale and complacent. If we desire our students to be lifelong learners, then we too must walk the same path. I love that Ronald was so astute in addressing the fact that if we want our students to embrace technology, if we want our students to not be afraid of new and shiny things, and we want them to know things and use them appropriately, use technology in a meaningful way, that we need to first develop that skill within ourselves and to face the things that make us a little uneasy. And then we need to role model that for our students. So I appreciate Ronald's thoughtfulness in putting that together, and do believe that we are given gifts and talents. And if technology is not your thing, folks, it is okay if it is not your thing. There are some low-hanging fruit, some easy things in technology that you can use in a meaningful way that make your job more efficient, that make you more skilled in a practice area without having to be overly involved in in using technology that feels complex. I have a group of colleagues in my undergraduate world that love the iClicker. I think several of you wrote about that as a technology. I don't like the iClicker. It makes my head hurt. I struggle with getting all that information to download in the right place and be where it's supposed to, and then creating the whole PowerPoint to make it line up. It just makes me crazy. It's just too many steps. I will use Poll Anywhere a million times over, so I do not have to use iClicker. One of my course teammates really wanted to use it because it captured, they wanted to use the iClicker points as a way to do participation points. I was so relieved when my department came up with a policy that we weren't allowed to use participation points, because then I could dodge the iClicker bullet. So everybody's got their thing. Be gentle with yourself. If you struggle to find something that didn't make you feel overwhelmed, know that you're in good company. The other thing that tickled me is I saw several of you talked about using your young adult or adolescent children to inform you and advise you in technology. I have been blessed with a super smart, tech savvy kid in my house, and I spend a lot of time texting him or reaching out to him and say, can you show me this, or can I break this if I do this? He is fantastic in helping guide my learning. So it is perfectly okay to use family resources, especially if you have parented them. You get full access and they can't complain or whine. Okay, so we've talked about this week. Let's shift gears and talk briefly about next week. Next week's teaching plan is based on service learning. I want to be very clear to make sure that you are understanding service learning. Service learning is providing an educational opportunity for nurses or nursing students related to a topic that they can then apply to a service learning activity. Your teaching plan, your audience needs to be nurses in a clinical environment or nursing students. If you are making your population patients, you have missed the step of the teaching piece of it. So the idea with service learning is that you teach your healthcare professionals a concept that's relevant to a certain care population. And they take that information and they go into their communities and they use the information they learned in class to serve the community, to serve the people that live where they live, to be the hands and feet of Christ. Think about this from a mission standpoint. Let's say you have a group of pediatric student nurses who are going to go on a mission trip, and they are going to be working specifically with the pediatric population. The teaching plan for service learning could be about nutrition for children under the age of 2. So the information would be all the educational content that's appropriate for nutrition for pediatrics younger than 2. The service piece of that would be this group of students maybe design posters that they will take with them to present to a group of young mothers who have children under the age of 2, and they'll help them identify healthy nutritional options for their child under the age of 2 based on what you as their faculty member taught them in the classroom. That's the loop of service learning. It's not the same as community service, and it's not just topically based in a didactic classroom without the service component. The education world, secular, Christian, are all really pushing towards creating a service learning atmosphere in the college setting. As Christian educators, we have a higher calling. We're not just being called by our employer to do this kind of nuanced thing in the classroom. We're being called by our Christian walk in faith to serve others as Christ has served us. So take it with that kind of meaning, and just be very methodical in how you approach this. You've already done one teaching plan. Use that feedback and go forward, feeling pretty polished and accomplished when you just do the process of the teaching plan. The only thing you have to do is just flip your topic, okay, and use the feedback that was provided to you. I hope this is helpful. If you have questions or concerns, please remember to use the Ask the Professor link on the discussion boards for those logistical who, what, where, when, hows, and anything personal that's private. Please know that you can email me, call me, holler at me. And we'll make time to talk one-on-one and meet your needs, whatever they are. I hope you guys are having a great rest of the week. Normally, I have puppies sleeping in the right and left chair, but they had their nails trimmed today, so no one is speaking to me. So it's my time to go rub bellies and apologize profusely for taking care of their wellness. The work of a puppy mom, is never done, much less a nurse. Y'all take care. Be in touch with any needs you have. Take care.